Hi all and welcome back to a new video where we're going to continue on with our Cheltenham previews. The day one preview went out on Monday and was really well received. Can't thank you all enough for the likes, the comments, the new subscribers on board. Hope you guys did enjoy that video, and we've plenty more of where that's coming from now as we tackle day two in this preview before hopefully on later on in the week day three and day four previews as well. As I discussed in the first video, I'm not going to ramble on about it again, but I only do the key races, or kind of the grade 1/conditions races in these videos, and then I'll do a handicap video, and then near enough the time a more kind of final selections thing. These are more kind of my thoughts and I suppose a few picks from the races rather than kind of concrete bets, I suppose, but these are the horses that I will be backing come the Cheltenham Festival. So today we're running through the Ballymore Novices Hurdle, the RSA Novices Chase, the Champion Chase, the Cross Country Chase, and the Champion Bumper. So not taking a look at the Coral Cup and the Boodles Handicap for now. They will be they'll be discussed, as I say, in the handicap video. So first of all, we need to discuss the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. Run over 2 mile 5. Won last year by City Island, who unfortunately, much to my disappointment, hasn't really progressed over fences this year. From Champ, who we'll be talking about soon in the RSA Chase. It was a pretty good race. Hasn't turned out, I suppose, to be the best. You know, Bright Forecast came third. Hasn't run this year. Sam's Profile came fifth. He hasn't run this year either. So it's been a bit disappointing from that respect. But we have potentially one of the best novice hurdles of recent times, to be honest, because Envoy has shown himself off to be more than your average novice hurdler. He's 5-4 for this race, which is a short price, and I'm not. See, this is where I'm kind of giving my views rather than giving you kind of tipping advice, because I don't think, personally, I don't think taking 5-4 now is much of a bet. So, like, I wouldn't recommend to anyone to take 5-4 when I think he'll be 5-4 on the day, or evens on the day at worst. But that being said, I do think he'll win the race here. I think he's just such a superb horse. I talked about him in the previous video that I think he wouldn't be out of place in a champion hurdle. His form, I see some people trying to crab his form. I think his form is absolutely rock solid. You look at the horses he's beaten this year. At Down Royal, he beat Front View and Tukas and Fahernan. They were second, third and fourth in that Down Royal maiden hurdle. All have won since. The Royal Bond Novice Hurdle, Abacadabras was in behind. Darver Star was in behind. Soviet Pimpernel was in behind. And last time out, Elixir Dane is a good horse. Longhouse Poet's not a bad horse. I see some people trying to crab the fact that the first time he went over 2.5 at Naas, he didn't look maybe that impressive. But it's just the way he runs. He was kind of taking the mick. Davy Russell wasn't getting really stuck into him. And we know from his bumper days that this horse responds generously for pressure. So I can't understand the people that think he's going to be out-battled by something here. And my main thing with this race is I just think a lot at the top of the market are going to end up not running in the race. Like, I don't think Asterion Forlange will run here. I don't think Shishkin will run here. I don't think Fiddler on the Roof will run here. In terms of the horses that will run here, I think Time Hill is his main danger. Now, it's not going to take you any... It doesn't take any genius to tell you that the second favourite's going to be the favourite's main danger. But I do like Time Hill. I can see why people like him. He's a rock-solid horse. His form is good. He's a tough horse. You know he's going to battle hard. And I think he's probably a very, very safe each-way play in this race at 6 or 7-1. I wouldn't be putting him up, but I can see why people like him. I think he'll run in this race rather than the Bartlett. I don't really want him to run in the Bartlett. I think he's too much class for that, to be honest. He's got form around Cheltenham, but he was safely held by Envoy last year in the Champion Bumper. And I know some people are going to say, oh, it's a bumper, it's different. Well, he had every chance to go by Envoy and he didn't. And I can't see any reason to suggest that this year's form puts Time Hill ahead of Envoy, so therefore I can't see him reversing that form. There's two, the big horses in this. The big breakaway for Colin Tizard and the big getaway for Willie Mullins. And these are two horses I think are absolutely top class, to be honest. I think they'll be smashing chasers in time. And are RSA horses potentially for next year. I'm just concerned that this might come a bit too soon for the two of them. They're both big, kind of gangly horses, and as we saw with Battle Over Doyen last year, and he wasn't the first that's done this before, running in a novice hurdle where he's a big kind of chasing type, and it hasn't quite gone to plan. I just would be holding fire on the two of them, including the big getaway, even though I'm a massive fan of the horse. There's something about him that makes me feel that next year will be the year for him rather than this year. And the same with the big breakaway. From everything I've seen, he's a pretty raw horse. And you're up against some proper horses there. And NYLN, Time Hill, these are seriously good novice hurdlers. And, you'd want to have your wits about you. The one I would recommend potentially having a few quid on right now is Easy Work at 16 to 1 each way. His form this year is good. He beat Mount Leinster in a maiden hurdle. He then beat Unaccepted, who's not a bad horse for Willie Mullins, by 20 lengths down at Limerick over Christmas, over 2.5. Dropped back down to 2 miles when he got beaten by Asterion Forlange at the Dublin Racing Festival. He just shaped that day like he's a 2.5 mile horse. He was kind of taken off his feet. He tried to make all and kind of outstay them, but kind of couldn't do it and got done for a bit of pace turning in and just plugged on at the 1 pace. My reasoning for backing him at 16 to 1 is because of all these non-runners that are more than likely going to materialise. I think this horse will end up on the day running in this race and being an 10 to 1 shot. And if we're there with 16 to 1, that is the value play. I just think he still has good form, and I rate that Asterion Forlange form very highly, as you guys know from my Supreme preview, and therefore I'm willing to give him another chance in this race. And 16 to 1, as I say, I think will be big considering the amount of non-runners potentially going to form in this race. The RSA chase is a massive head scratcher for me, I must confess, and the main reason it's a head scratcher for me is because I don't like Champ. I never have. I've never got the hype. I was against him last year, and I'll be against him this year again. And my main reasoning is that the horse cannot jump. Like, he put in, as much as you guys, like people that like Nicky Henderson, people like Mick Fitzgerald and stuff like that, will want to tell you he jumped pretty good at Newbury. Both times he jumped terribly at Newbury. He's slow, he's sticky, he doesn't make a good natural frame at a fence. That's not the word, frame. But anyway, natural kind of position at a fence. He's a bit like Faugheen in a lot of respects. Like, it just doesn't seem to come naturally. And he made an absolute haymaker of a fall on New Year's Day when Midnight Shadow ended up winning the Dipper. He was going to win that day. He is a good horse. The engine's there. If the race was a 3 mile flat race, he would win it. But I just can't have him at the price considering his jumping. Manila Indo won the Albert Bartlett last year and followed up with a win in the Grade 1 3 mile novices hurdle at Punchestown. So he's a very good horse. Again though, chasing hasn't gone. This can't be the ideal prep going into an RSA, having finished second to Lorena, who's ended up being a bust over fences and was well beat that day, and then beating Captain CJ by a length and a half. Now, I'm one of Captain CJ's biggest fans, as people on Twitter will know, but he shouldn't be anywhere near an RSA winner, to be honest. And I'm dubious about that form. Obviously, he's being trained just with this race in mind, but I'm still dubious. And again, you're taking a short price for something that hasn't actually done much over fences. Battle Over Doyen looked a solid horse, if anything a bit unspectacular. I've seen him a lot this year. I didn't see him win his beginners, but I was there when he won the Florida Pearl at Punchestown. I was there when he won the Grade 1 over Christmas. And I was there when he fell last time out in the Flowgas Novices Chase. That can't be an ideal prep, being taken off your feet over 2.5. And then, again, a bit like Champ, a mother of all falls at the last when a very, very tired horse. So it isn't a race I would be getting too much stuck into, I must confess. But we've got the Willie Mullins bingo between Allaho and Faugheen, and we don't know which one will run in which. You also have Easy Game. I do have Easy Game just a little bit behind these two. I know Easy Game beat Allaho over Christmas, but I think Allaho would reverse that form if he needed to. And I don't know which one's going to run in which, to be honest. Allaho is 5-1 for this race. Faugheen is 8-1. Allaho, I think, is a very good horse. Last year it happened just a bit maybe too soon in his development as a horse. The Albert Bartlett, he was very keen. It was a very good effort considering that. He was then second over Christmas at Leopardstown when he was run out of it by Easy Game, but he clearly seemed to need the run and came on leaps and bounds for that when winning his beginners very, very easily. Again, he's going into this race with no Grade 1 experience over fences, which has to be a worry, but he is a horse that I do like, and I personally would prefer to see him in the Marsh, but if he rocks up here, I would back him. And the same thing applies with Faugheen, really. There is something in the back of my mind that tells me he won't win. And I don't know, you can believe that or you can't believe that. You can do whatever you want with it. But at the end of the day, he's an old warrior. We always back him. You guys know I always back him. And I'm certainly not going to be straying away from him, considering the great days he's given me this year, which have been some of the greatest days in my racing career. Well, it's not really been a career, has it? But in terms of days racing out, that Flogas Novices Chase was as good a day as you'll ever get. So it would be Allaho and Faugheen for me. Only one of them will run in the race, but whichever one does run, I would back. The Champion Chase, over 2 miles, and you guys know where I stand on this. It's one of my very few relatively successful anti-post bets. You guys know, and I know there's some of you out there that are trying to ask for all the bets, and some people trying to tot them all together and stuff like that. I'll hold my hands up. They haven't been very good. Half of them aren't running. Half of them are non-runners through being injured or just not going for the race. You had a few bits of bad luck in there along the way. But Shaq Poursois was one of them that I have got a good price on. I tipped him up at 7-1 at the start of the year. He's now an 11-4 shot. It's a tough race. It is a tough race. And I saw it being said the other day, this is a race where the front three in the market are exceptional horses. And any of the three can win. You can pin your colours to the mast. You can say, I think he'll win, or I think he'll win. But at the end of the day, you don't know, and any of the three could win. I've stuck with Shaq. He's the horse I've been with all year. His jumping's superb. He's got good form in the book. I think that run with Min the other day was good because it was a strong time. As I say, he jumped at very good level of ability at such pace, which is a very good thing. And I suppose I do have question marks over the other two in my eyes. You guys probably have question marks over Shaq Poursois, which is fair enough. Defi de Soy, I'm just concerned in a Champion Chase he's going to make a mistake jumping wise. I don't think his jumping has been tested in his last couple of runs at kind of that helter-skelter speed of a Champion Chase, and it wouldn't surprise me to see his jumping be just a little slow. And Altior, I think, is a massive danger. Of course he is. But he just hit these flat spots. It was a decent effort on his reappearance there. But he's only beaten So Royale by 4 lengths. The previous time So Royale won, Duke de Geneva beat him by 4 lengths. So you have to take the form with a pinch of salt, to be honest. It is a tricky race. Personally, I don't see it as being any sort of an each-way race. I think you have to make up between your own mind out of the three who you think has got the best chance and back them. They're all at similar prices. I think Altior's 2s, Defi is 5-2, and Shakan's 11-4 best price. I think you just have to back one of them and hope for the best. For me, it's been Shakan because I've been with him all year and I'm not going to desert him now. But to be honest, if any of the three did win, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. The cross-country chase, 3 miles, 6 furlongs. The return of the legend, hopefully, in Tiger Roll. He's currently 13-8. Now, if you believe that Tiger Roll is going to win, I would back him now. Because if he does anything on Sunday in the Boyne Hurdle, if he even, to be honest, even if he just runs and shows that he's alive and well and you know, isn't completely out with the washing, he'll contract in price, no wonder. I think it'll be tough to get by him. He's such a good horse. He loves these cross-country fences. He's won the race the last twice. Last year was just an absolute procession. And there's certainly, from both the English and Irish channel, I don't think there's any horse that can get near him. I couldn't have Yanworth in a month of Sunday. He'd be almost my biggest lay of the whole festival. You could give me any price on Yanworth and I wouldn't back it. And I think, to be honest, the French will have will have the second and third here. I think Easy's Land is probably his biggest, his Tiger Roll's biggest threat at this stage. His price would indicate that. He's 7-2. He's an up-and-comer. He won at the December meeting, I'm going to say. I think. He's got an interesting jockey now, this Jonathan Plouganu guy. I know JP's bought him, so maybe they can jock your man off, because he's an interesting way of going about it, let's just put it that way. But he's a very good horse. He loves cross-country racing. He almost exclusively runs over the cross-country banks. And he won the other day at Pau, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not a French expert, but I do think he's got a very good chance of getting into the frame. But 7-2 is no each-way price. And the one I did put up earlier in the year at 16-1 for this race is Urgent de Gurgan. He's an old-timer at this stage. I think he could run around the Cheltenham cross-country track with his eyes closed at this stage. He's become so much of a regular. He always runs his race. He travels well on the bridle. He doesn't respond too much for pressure, to be honest. But he's so reliable in these races, and there's so many of these Irish and English horses that I really can't get behind. It really wouldn't surprise me if he ran into a place. Usually in the cross country you get 4 to 5 places. I can't see him being out of the 4 or 5 because I don't see him falling, and I do see him travelling really well. Maybe not quite getting up the hill, but running a good race, and he's not a bad each way play. He's 12s at the moment. I think there's worse 12-1 shots in the festival than him. And finally, the last race for the Day 2 preview is the Champion Bumper. Usually a very trappy race, but not this year, because my nap of the week runs in the Champion Bumper in the form of Appreciated, which is, lo and behold, the best anti-post selection I've put up all year by quite a distance. I put him up at 16-1, I think, early January after he won over the Christmas Festival. I was very taken with him over Christmas, but you were there going, the race wasn't very good, all that. He came back to Leopardstown there for the Future Champions Flat Race, Grade 2, over 2 miles as well, so going back down to 2 miles. And he put in a monstrous performance, winning so easily. And I know Eric Bloodaxe didn't run his race that day, which is a bit of a shame because he's obviously a very good horse in his own right, but he was well in behind. Now there was something wrong with him, I suspect, but he's won twice. Risk Factor was second, beaten 7 lengths. He won over the Christmas Festival at Leopardstown. Lieutenant Command was another 7 lengths back. He won at Limerick over Christmas. Fantasio Daline has been a very good yardstick of these listed bumpers this year. Has placed in 2 listed bumpers. He was back 16 lengths in behind. And Wide Receiver, who was bought for an almighty amount of money, I think 410 grand, and won a bumper before finishing 2 lengths behind Eric Bloodaxe over Christmas, was beaten out of sight. This is a monster horse. He, as I say, he's my nap of the week. He's now 2-1. I still think he's not a bad 2-1 shot. I sincerely don't see anything that can beat him. Israel Champ is a very good horse. I think he could run all right. I see the owners of Panic Attack have sent that horse to David Pipe. The less said the better about that, I suspect. One I think that could run at a price, if she does run in the race, is a horse called Darling Daughter, who's 20-1. We've seen before Relegate won that Mayor's Bumper at the Dublin Racing Festival before going on to win the Champion Bumper. Darling Daughter won that race this year, beating a good field. Big Bad and Beautiful was in there. Politesse was in there. Good horse, Joseph O'Brien's was in there. She's now 2 for 2 for Gordon Elliott, winning at Limerick before Leopardstown. She has ability. I don't know whether she'll run or not. She might have a bit of a squeak at 20s if she does run, but I am all over appreciated. As I said, my best anti-post selection by quite a bit this year, as it has been, as I've previously alluded to. Not quite as good as last year anyway for my anti-post picks, but certainly if he goes in, that would be brilliant. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and of course if you're new to the channel and you enjoy the video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below. It does mean an awful lot. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, something I never thought I would say, which is really brilliant and all down to you guys. Hope you guys keep interacting. What are your thoughts for day 2? And I suppose really what I want to know is who you think is going to win this champion chase, potentially the race of the festival between Altior, Defi and Chacun Pour Soi. I'm telling you guys, pin your colours to the mast and let me know down below. And until the day 3 preview, best of luck and happy punting.